it's a good idea right now as you're sitting there to just approach this with what I call Zen mind, beginner's mind. So most of you have come here with a technique. You might have learned aromatherapy, you might be a reflexologist, you might be a massage therapist, a herbalist. Just while we're going through this talk, just put that off to one side and take a new approach at how you might think about delivering your technique. Because GEM's actually not about throwing away techniques that fix. It's adding it to a technique that fixes. Like you can go to a chiropractor, osteopath, massage therapist and have a frozen shoulder perhaps fixed. The technique part of it is important, but the beingness part of it, which is GEM, which is how you deliver that technique to the client so that you have a long shelf life and they get educated in the process of doing that. I wanted to touch on the point that Sandy brought up yesterday, a really most important point for everybody in this room as touch therapists. And even if you're not a touch therapist, you still touch people in your life. And touch is, I believe, as she correctly said, the way that it's going, because it's the way that we can get people reconnected. It's the way we can help people to re-embody. And it's the way we can help people to be mindful and to engage in their life again. Even people that are well and don't have an active disease process. So the power of touch, one neural system touching another mobile neural system, in other words, one human being's hands touching another human being, has what I think is quite a magical effect and quite an underrated effect. So if you can really see yourselves as healers, not just as massage therapists, because indeed you are catalysts for change, and touch is indeed a very powerful catalyst for change. So GEM is also about taking a road to personal discovery. And in taking that road to discovery, it means that the practitioner actually is doing work on themselves. So in the delivering of technique and the how you deliver your technique, it's a really important personal journey that you're embarking upon, a journey that will stand you in good stead for the rest of your life and educate your clients. So a definition of GEM, it's appreciating stress energy, and Marg and I were having this conversation yesterday with Eddie about stress being the biggest problem in society at the moment. So a lot of people get very narrow because they hold stress. So the GEM method actually appreciates that the stress energy that is trapped in the client's body is actually causing emotional anatomy to be held in. So it really is a held in, squashed in emotional anatomy. The therapist then uses important words: safe, invitational, respectful, and I call it non-intentional touch, because unlike the technique, you have no intention to fix anything. The client will fix themselves. The client has the blueprint, and the client automatically, innately, with touch, knows where their body's going to move. And I'll show you some examples of that shortly. So by this type of touch, this non-intentional touch, we're actually communicating in a way that the body understands. Remember, the body carries the truth. So the head can actually lie. We just had an amazing experience with a friend who's had congenital hip problems. She's just had 2 hip replacements. We had a phone conversation with her. And Pip said to her, well, you know, how are you going? And she's always positive, always positive. And she, oh, it was really good. She said, I'm doing fine. It was, you know, da, da, da. And he said, well, how was it really? And she said, well, you know, it was funny because when they took my blood pressure, it was way over 200. Now, that's kind of the new age trap of think positive and deny what's going on in the body. And I'm sure a lot of you are relating to that with what you see in their practices. Oh no, I've forgiven my husband, and the back goes, like 2 metal rods are sort of stuck up their spine. So the body's saying, oh no, you haven't. Because the body tells the truth. So the head can sort of lie its way anywhere. one of the beauties of working with the body, for those of you who are body therapists, is that you are putting your hands on a story. You're putting your hands on the truth of the story. And you're helping that person to tell that story through the releasing process. So we're also helping them to get rid of that trapped energy with this method. So how does this energy get there in the first place? And this is just a few of many. Your biography becomes your biology. So it's the story of your life from birth, and probably before that, as to what's actually happened to you. Chronic unresolved stress, which is the one that comes up again, is one of the keys in how energy gets locked into the body. And chronic unresolved emotional material, creating habitual patterns, is what we see that's locked up in people's body. So, release. Now with Jem, the client's in charge of the letting go process. And importantly, it's non-cathartic. Now a lot of therapists go looking for an emotional release. Having worked with 12,000 people with cancer, if I went looking for an emotional release, they would go off like a cork out of a champagne bottle. So I need to be very respectful and find a way that I can work with those people who often have very, very heavy emotional material squashed down in the body, indeed. And the light touch, the Jem non-intentional touch, is a very good avenue for anybody who is feeling like they don't want to get into heavy emotional material, because it's not likely to happen. It only happens very occasionally. You might get a few tears. The person doesn't even know where it's come from. Doesn't matter. It's a release. And once you start getting that release, I'm a great one in saying that healing needs to be gentle. And like the real founder of our whole system said, above all, do no harm. So we don't want to fracture people by getting an emotional release. Rebirthing, I found, has not been a useful thing for many people with cancer. They don't have the energy for it, and you'll see why later on. So catharsis in general, I don't think, is helpful. A gentle bubbling and a gentle flow of emotions. Now this picture is me actually working on a man's shoulder with the Jem method. Now I've just chosen a shoulder for today. It's interesting with our talk this morning about shoulders. But by using this light and unintentional touch on a shoulder, coming into someone, and I'll do a demonstration with someone if I get time at the end, enables this unfurling process to happen. Putting my hands on there. Now I'm hoping that you can see the shoulder that's been touched and the shoulder that is not being touched. Can everybody identify that? The shoulder that's been touched is the shoulder that is dropped on the right, and the shoulder that has not been touched is the shoulder on the left. So by helping this man to become familiar with how he holds stress in his shoulders, you've done one very significant thing for him to put in his healing bank account. Because he's now learned, because his body knows when this has happened, it's fantastic. People don't need to do it, or they just need to touch their own shoulder, and there it goes, out and expands and goes back into the blueprint. So it's a very nice way of helping people with meditation as well. Many people say in meditation, sit down, close your eyes, relax your muscles and just let go. Do you know how to do this if your head's been running around for years and not even aware it's got a body underneath it? Which many of our clients are in that position. So, you know, and again, I've had clients sitting around 40 people one day when I was at the foundation getting ahas about how people's bodies were reacting. 40 people sitting in a circle or meditating, and I decided this day I was going to open my eyes and check them out. So I did. And I found people with whites of their knuckles on the edge of the chair. I found people with their knees starting to contort in all kinds of interesting shapes. I found frowns coming upon them. I found jaws gritted. I found eyes clamped shut with little kind of evidence of heavy crow's feet out the side. And I'm thinking, this is really interesting. What's going on here? Because we walked them through relax the muscles, contract the muscles, let the muscles go, etc., etc. But what happened was the habitual kicked in. And it was beyond our listening. They started to space out, not space in. And as they were spacing out, the habitual kicked in and their muscles went into the normal way that they would be in their life. When I asked people at the end of that session, how was that for you? They said, fantastic, it was the most relaxed we'd ever felt in our lives. And I thought, either I'm going blind or something else is going on here.